And this letter would disqualify the Sefer Torah, would have disqualified the Sefer Torah. So therefore, that's why he spilled the wine on it, in order to save the Sefer Torah from being puzzled. And that's what Rav Zuckerman meant, Midavar toiv al teitzei ra. From something good doesn't happen bad. Now I also want to point out in Shlach Lcha Anoshim that the Klei Yoker says, Shlach Lcha, send according to your thought, Moshe, Anoshim. Rabbi Nisham was hinting that if it would have been him, he would have sent women. Because the women loved the land. And the women would have never found bad in the land. Vayikra Moshe Lcha ben Nun Yeshua. Moshe called Lcha ben Nun Yeshua. Moshe took the drastic action, it's a very drastic action. Somebody is very sick, is in sakana, we change a name. It's a very drastic action. So as Yeshua embarked on this perilous mission, so it says that Moshe Rabbeinu added his protege's name was Hoshea. He added a yud to his protege's name, Vayikra Moshe Lcha ben Nun Yeshua. So now with the Yeshua, with the yud, we could read it, Yud Hey, Ka Hoshiacha Me'atzas Meraglim. Let God save you from the counsel of the spies. The Chidah in the Nachal Kedumim says that Moshe Rabbeinu, Chas v'Shalom, never thought for a moment that it was possible that Yeshua would go against Hashem. He knew Yeshua. He was not worried about that. What he was worried about is that the Meraglim, seeing that Yeshua wouldn't participate with them, they might kill him. Don't forget, when Chur tried to stop the Egel, they killed Chur, who was a very great man. Chur is the same letters as Ruach. He had the Ruach of Hashem in him. They killed Chur. So the Chidah says what Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid is that the 10 Meraglim might kill Yeshua when they saw that he wasn't willing to agree with them. So that was the meaning of Kai Shiacha Mi'atzas Meraglim. We know, I told you many times, that the Gemara Menachos says that Olam Haba was created with Yud, and Olam Hazeh was created with a Hey. That's Karibon Olam V'Ol Maya, right? Kibika Hashem Tzurei Lamed. Now the Meraglim lost their Olam Haba. So could be Moshe Rabbeinu added the Yud, which is Olam Haba. Remember we said Yud represents Olam Haba. It's the smallest letter because very few people go there. So he added the Yud, that your Olam Haba should be saved. Not just a Hey, the Olam Hazeh, but your Olam Haba should be saved. The Or Chaim HaKadosh says that he added a Yud, that he should simply be protected. Yud is 10. He should be protected from the 10 Meraglim. And as the Gemara tells us, that he would inherit the portion of the 10 Meraglim. There's a famous Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi says, it's Yerushalmi in Sanhedrin, Perek Beis, that where did Moshe Rabbeinu get the Yud from? We know that when Sarai's name was changed to Sarah, so we have an extra Yud, the Yud of Sarai. So the Gemara, the Yerushalmi in Sanhedrin says that Yud from Sarai went to Yeshua. Where did you get the Shva that's under the Yud of Yeshua? So that is why it's Bin Nun and not Ben Nun. So the Ben had a Segel, and it was changed to a Chirik, Bin, so there's 2 extra dots. That was the Shva that went under Yeshua. That's what the Welt says. However, it's not so, and by the way, the understanding that the Yud was taken from Sarai is that the Yud was masculine, and instead Sarah was given a Hey, which is feminine, and therefore she was able to have a child. That Yud of masculinity was added to Yeshua, that he should have more boldness to be able to stand up to the Meraglim. That's one way to understand it. The problem is that many say that the Yud of Sarai was split into two. So the Yud became two Heys. One went to her Sarah, and one went to Avraham instead of Avram. So then the Yud is an extra. So then where did the Yud come from? So there's another pshat. See, the Torah says, V'ish Moshe anav ma'od mikol adam. And in the word anav, it's written ayin nun vav, missing a Yud. So the Gemara says, when it says Moshe Rabbeinu was the humblest of all men, why was it missing a Yud? So the Gemara says that when Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it, he felt very uncomfortable to call himself the humblest of all men, and to describe how uncomfortable he was, it's written without a Yud. But that Yud was supposed to be written. So the Targum Yonis Menazil says, Kadchomi, when Moshe Rabbeinu saw on Visenuse the Hosea, he saw the humility of Hosea, so he took that Yud of Anav and he gave it to Yeshua. So it came from the word Anav. However, we have to know that in this Targum Yonis Menazil lurks a fascinating discussion. The Targum Yonis Menazil says, and I'll give you the exact words of the Targum Yonis Menazil, Kadchomi Moshe an Venuse, when Moshe Rabbeinu saw the humility of Yeshua, Kara Moshe Leishea Bar Nun Yeshua. So the simple meaning of this Targum Yonis Menazil is that Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid that because of Yeshua's humility, he wouldn't be able to stand up to the great Meraglim. Especially since the Ramban says that Yeshua is numbered 5. He was only 5 in greatness. So he might be, because of his humility, he might have been cowed to go against him. And that's why he had to add the Yud, Koi, Shiach, Amatzas, Meraglim. But Reb Chaim Kanievsky, it's fascinating, Reb Chaim Kanievsky brings down a Mabit, the great Mabit in the Beis Elikim, says that when people will be resurrected, they'll be resurrected by alphabetical order. So if your name is Avram, you'll get up first. And then Baruch, and then Gedaliah, and then Dan. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, how could Moshe Rabbeinu change Yeshua's name from Hosea to Yoshua? He's demoting him. At Hosea, he will be resurrected quicker. And now that he's making Yeshua, he's putting him down to Yud. However, Reb Chaim Kanievsky says that the Mekubalim say that the very first people that will get up at Tchias HaMesim are people of humility, are humble people. So when Moshe Rabbeinu saw that Yeshua was humble, then he was able to add the Yud. Because it makes no difference, because he's going to get up from the first ones anyway, because he's humble. And by the way, that's Mechaye Mesim. Mem Ches Yud Hey is Chai Mo. A person that lives with what? Mo Hashem. Mo Anu. Who are you? Who are we? Mechayenu. Nachnu Mo. What are we? A person that's Chai Mo, that's the one that's going to be by Mechaye Mesim first. That could be why it says in Pirkei Avos, the only place it says Ma'oid, Ma'oid, every Shval Ruach. Because a person who is of a lowly spirit is going to be resurrected first. Now it's it's also interesting that the Be'er Basada says, if you remember, we said that Eldad Meidad said, remember they were Misnabim B'machna, all the 70 people that were chosen for the Sanhedrin only prophesied as a conduit of Moshe Rabbeinu. The only ones that were given independent prophecy was Eldad and Meidad. Now it says Eldad and Meidad Misnabim B'machna. What did they prophesize? They prophesied Moshe Meis, Yeshua Machnas. Moshe is going to die and Yeshua is going to bring in Klal Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid that because Yeshua knew this, that might influence him to say we shouldn't go into Eretz Yisrael, because he didn't want Moshe Rabbeinu was ready to die. And therefore he had to have an extra tefillah, please help him. Now, I just want to conclude this with one more thought. Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshua had a weakness. He wasn't married. Moshe Rabbeinu knew Baruch HaKodesh that when he enters into Eretz Yisrael, he's going to meet his Bashert, he's going to meet the great Rachav, who would become the first lady of Klal Yisrael. And then he would have the Yud and the Hey of the fusion of an Isha and Isha. Remember we said, Ish and Isha takes the Yud of Isha and the Hey of Isha and makes Ka. So already Moshe Rabbeinu gave him the Yud to make the Ka in the beginning of his name. And he says in the schus of entering in Eretz Yisrael and finding your mate, Rachav, that should also help you against the Meragla. And now, it's late for this, but I want to share with you another very fundamental lesson. It's a very fundamental lesson. But before I do, I want to mention that this is the third week in a row that the shir is sponsored the last minute by Talmidim of my inner circle. 2 weeks ago, by did it anonymously, one of my dear Talmidim in Monsey. Last week by my dear Talmud, Dr. Block. And this week by my dear Talmud, Be'er Goldwasser. I can't have it always falling on just my inner circle of Talmidim to sponsor the shir. So I ask again, many of you, and I know there's many, I see on my dashboards, I know there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Please, if you enjoy the share, think about sponsoring a week. 718-916-3100 or rmmwsi@aol.com. Shlach Lcha Anoshim, as we explained, Rashi says, L'datcha, ani eini mitzav alach. I'm not telling you to do it. Im tirtzei, if you want to, tirtzei shlach. Now, we would think that right away, well, this should have been a dead giveaway. If the Rebbeinu Shalom is not telling him to do it, why did he do it? You know, the fact that Hashem said, look, it's up to you. Shouldn't that have been a dead giveaway that Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't have done it? So Rav Dessler unleashes over here a major yesod about hishtadlus. You see, our livelihood is fixed on Yom Kippur. It's written on Rosh Hashanah, it's fixed on Yom Kippur. So why do we have to go to work? The parnas is fixed, like the mud. The answer is that before the sin of man, that would have been how it was. But the punishment of Adam Rishon was b'zeyas apecha teichel lcha. By the sweat of your brow, you're going to eat bread. Meaning that from the time of the klala and on, we were cursed that we have to make hishtadlus. Let me read you the words of Rav Dessler. Lcha chet Adam Rishon, kilul Hashem Isai b'zeyas apecha teichel lcha. And from them, yesh tzorech hishtadlus. There's a need to make an effort. Before that curse, angels would roast the meat, but listen to what he says. Since the need to make effort sprouts from the curse, yesh lahafchis me'aklala kama she'efshar. We should try to do as less of the curse as possible. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, having mamayit be'asik v'yasik b'Torah. Do less business and more Torah. And it says also in Pirkei Avos, asay Torah kva u'malachtecha aray. Make your Torah what's permanent and work aray. The Chavis Havavos says the same exact thing. He says, "Shekol yitzia leparnasa, hu beglal chet." It's because of sin. Bekil las b'zeyes hapecha teichel lcha. And the venerable Reishis Chachma says that we know we have lamates malachas, right? That's the 39 malachas that we don't do on Shabbos. He says the lamates malachas is keneged lamates malachas shechata Adam Rishon. Lamates klalas that were given to Adam Rishon. He was given 39 curses. The ancient Sefer Apirian says that when they open up a big fish, they find in its belly a small fish that the big fish swallowed. They find an interesting thing, that the head of the small fish is facing the tail of the big fish. It's also Yalkut Daniel. That means that the small fish went in head first into the big fish. And the Ostra Sagain explains that it has to be this way. Because if the big fish would be chasing the small fish and swallowed it from behind, its fins would be open and the fins would choke the big fish. It's only when it's coming at it and the fins close that the big fish could swallow it and survive. The Ostra Sagain says that this is a sign that when a person is chasing their parnasa, it could choke them. Now, I have to tell you that the gauge of how much hishtadlus to make is one of the great challenges of life. And it's very confusing because, to the contrary, making a parnas is a mitzvah. It says that making a parnas is a fulfillment of the mitzvah of alachta b'dracha, to walk in the ways of Hashem, because it's Hashem. It says that Hashem is zon the world mekarnei re'emim ad be'ekinim, from the horns of the mighty unicorn to the eggs of lice. So when we make a parnasa for a family, we are fulfilling the alachta b'dracha. It says, you should inform them, ze beis chayayim. Rashi says, what does it mean, beis chayayim? L'lamed lehem umnis l'sparnes, to teach the children a profession that they should make a livelihood. The Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Yotes says that you don't go out on a boat less than 3 days before Shabbos, but you are allowed to do it for a Dvar Mitzvah. And the Mordechai says, B'Shem Rabbeinu Tam, that to go for Parnasa is considered a mitzvah. And it's included, as the Rambam includes it, of one of the things that you're allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael to go to Chutz La'aretz for Parnasa. In Mechilta Reb Shimon Yochai, it says in the Torah, Sheishes Yomim Tavoi. The Rashbat says, Helves HaMalacha. Should love work. So on the one hand, we're saying it's a curse. On the other hand, it's a mitzvah. You should love your work. So this is a person has to weigh it. It's interesting. There are certain amounts given. The Shlach Kaddish says that the Darshe Rishumas, those that darshan hints, it says Oz Taskil, Oz Tatzliach, Oz Tishan. You'll become wise, you'll prosper, and you'll sleep. Now Oz, Aleph Zayin, is 8. So he says 8 hours of the day for Taskil, for learning Torah and davening. 8 hours Tatzliach for Parnasa, and Oz Tishan, 8 hours to sleep. That's one report. The Medrash Kehela says that should divide life, shlish l'Torah, a third for Torah, shlish l'tefillah, a third for davening, and shlish l'omnis, and a third for Parnasa. One thing is for sure, that you see from these things, that a person's hishtadlus shouldn't cause him that he shouldn't be able to go to minyan. Some people are so busy with their work that they don't even daven with a minyan. I've always told people that it's not likely that hishtadlus that emanates from a curse should take us away from the important functions of life. A person who is so busy with his work his whole life that he never spends time with his wife, and she's a Lebedika widow, or he never gets to know his children, that is probably not proper hishtadlus. I say a story that a man, it's a true story, a man came to me and he told me, sadly, Rabbi Weiss, last night was the night before the wedding. I'm marrying off a child today. And we were sitting and we were doing the place seating chart for the chasana. And I said, don't sound so sad, how fortunate you are, you're taking a son to the chuppah. How many people would want a shidduch for their children? They can't get a shidduch. How many people would want a son? He says to me, Rabbi Weiss, don't get me wrong. I'm just sad that I realized that last night was the last night that he was home. He's leaving. My time with him is up. I had my 25 years. From now on, he's going to be in a different home. He'll come and visit, but that's it. And I blew it. I was never there for him. I always said I was at the office, and when I wasn't at the office, I came home, I was too tired to do anything. Or maybe I stole some time with my wife, but I never was there for my child. We have to know that that's not good hishtadlus. I don't know if this is true, but if you take the word hishtadlus, the word hishtadlus, hishtadlus is shos dalus. Hashem places poverty. If a person is too orangutan in hishtadlus, that's a poverty. He's lost out. When you have to make a choice Should I spend most of my life with that which came from a curse? Or should I put more emphasis on Torah, which is nitzchi, which is forever, which is kneged kulam? It's also interesting that the word parnasa is pen sara, lest you turn away. Be careful that the parnasa doesn't turn you away from the most important things in life. So Rav Dessler says, to come back for his full circle, Rav Dessler says that that's the meaning where Hashem said to Moshe, Shlach, Lcha, Nashim, this is a question of ishtadlus, of what's the proper ishtadlus, to send out spies or not, or leave it up to Hashem. He said that you'll conquer the land. That's ladatcha. You have to decide. And that's true by all of us. We always have to make a decision. How much hishtadlus should we make? And how much is too much? Because remember, the more they gathered by the month, they didn't get anything more than an asiris or ephah. And the more that we do, that's why Ramosha, when in 1937 he came to America, and he saw people during the Great Depression working on Shabbos, he said, do they think we have to work to make it shtadlus? Do they think by desecrating the Shabbos, that's a shtadlus? Do they think that they're going to get a penny more because of that? Or like the Chavetz Chaim said, an amazing mashal. He said, if you have a barrel of liquid, and you want more, so instead of having one spigot, you make another spigot. Do you think when you make a second spigot, you're going to get more? You're still only going to get only what's in that barrel. A person's barrel is what was assigned to them on Rosh Hashanah. By working more, it's like making more spigots in the barrel. They're not going to get anything more because of it. I want to thank you all for joining us. This was a longer share than usual. Also want to say again, please, if you enjoy these shiurim, consider to sponsor 718-916-3100. Also, I want to say that in Yetz Hashem Motzi Shabbos at 10:45, we're going to be starting a new Masechta Avodah Zarah. Please think about joining our Zoom Daf community by going to zoomdaf.com during the week, 8:55. On Motzi Shabbos, we start at 10:45. Zoomdaf.com with meeting code by initials RMMW, all in capitals. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.